Blessed One, Shakyamuni Buddha, precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace, you who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling jewel. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet of delight. Through your compassionate intention, your blessings and virtuous deeds, and my strong wish to rely upon you, may all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled, and may holy Dhamma flourish forevermore. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. May everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. In the space before me is the living Buddha Shakyamuni, surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, like the full moon surrounded by stars. With my body, speech, and mind, humbly I prostrate, and make offerings both set out and imagined. I confess my wrong deeds from all time, and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases, and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to great enlightenment. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain for land, sun, and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus. May all beings enjoy such pure lands. I offer without any sense of loss the objects that give rise to my attachment, hatred, and confusion, my friends, enemies, and strangers, our bodies and enjoyments. Please accept these and bless me to be released directly from the three poisons. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. The path begins with strong reliance on my kind teacher, source of all good. Oh, bless me with this understanding to follow him with great devotion. This human life with all its freedoms extremely rare, with so much meaning. Oh, bless me with this understanding all day and night to seize its essence. My body like a water bubble decays and dies so very quickly. After death come results of karma, just like the shadow of a body. With this for knowledge and remembrance, bless me to be extremely cautious, always avoiding harmful actions and gathering abundant virtue. Samsara's pleasures are deceptive, give no contentment, only torment. So please bless me to strive sincerely to gain the bliss of perfect freedom. Oh, bless me so that from this pure thought come mindfulness and greatest caution, to keep as my essential practice the doctrine's root, the pratimoksha. Just like myself, all my kind mothers are drowning in samsara's ocean. Oh, so that I may soon release them, bless me to train in bodhicitta. But I cannot become a Buddha by this alone, without three ethics. So bless me with the strength to practice the Bodhisattva's ordination. by pacifying my distractions and analyzing perfect meanings. Bless me to quickly gain the union of special insight and quiescence. When I become a pure container through common paths, bless me to enter the essence practice of good fortune, the supreme vehicle Vajrayana. The two attainments both depend on my sacred vows and my commitments. Bless me to understand this clearly and keep them at the cost of my life. By constant practice in 4 sessions, the way explained by holy teachers. Oh, bless me to gain both the stages which are the essence of the Tantras. May those who guide me on the good path and my companions all have long lives. Bless me to pacify completely all obstacles, outer and inner. May I always find perfect teachers and take delight in holy Dhamma. Accomplish all grounds and pass swiftly and gain the state of Vajradhara. From the hearts of all the holy beings, streams of light and nectar flow down, granting blessings and purifying.
Good morning, everybody. Silence is over, by the way, so you're allowed to talk. We're going to have a little bit of a different kind of session. And Genshoma and I thought it would be nice to, basically use this final session to come to some conclusions, some practical conclusions about where to go from here. And also, we've been talking a lot, but we haven't heard a lot from you. So we'd love to hear about some of your highlights. And the way this session will flow, I'd like to finish up the transmission of the 6 stages. Like I'll read from Mahamudra Tantra just to have some completion of the 6 stages in a minute. And then it'll largely be over to you. And what I'd like you to reflect on and offer as you wish are these 3 questions. The first one being, what did you learn from the silence? It's always a question I love to ask, and I always love what people share when they talk about their experience of the silence. There wasn't a tremendous amount of silence, or just a morning, 2 mornings rather, but that can be quite instructive. That space of silence that is kind of not a very common part of modern culture, to be silent in general, and then to be silent around other humans is even more unusual, and then to be silent around other humans in this context is quite special and powerful. So maybe some of you would like to share a little bit of your experience of what it was to be silent, and I'd love to hear that. Secondly is, what did you learn about your mind, or the mind? What did you learn about the mind or your mind, just in general? What struck you about the teachings on the mind, your mind? What insights have you gained, or what have you been reminded of that you'd like to remember? And then following on from that, what would you like to remember and really most importantly, practice? Because one of the reasons Genshoma and I wanted to do this is because these retreats are very powerful, but they're only long-term powerful if we use them moving forward. Otherwise, it's just a lovely little weekend, and then, by like Wednesday, you're back to normal, whatever that means. So it's very helpful and I think, crucial actually, to come to some very clear, definite conclusions about what you're going to do now. Otherwise, and I've done this many times, I've had lots of wonderful weekend retreats or events that I didn't pull forward into my practice. And it's nice karma, some good imprints, but it's not really the point. The point is to change, to take this weekend, and this could be, if you want it to be, like a pivotal weekend for your whole life. This could change the course of your whole life, quite literally, if you decide certain things and then use your mindfulness to remember those decisions. You could very, very feasibly, a year from now, be back in this temple thinking, yeah, I did a lot with that retreat last year. I really used what I learned in that retreat, and it's really informed my practice, both in the session and in the break, for the last year. And that would be great if we could all try to do that. Okay, so those are the three questions: silence, your mind, and moving forward. So you can let that percolate for a moment. Okay, so last night we did a meditation on the subtle mind, and Venerable Geshe-la gives an introduction to that, and you can read that. And what I'll do is just read from the book, From Realizing Our Subtle Mind Directly, which is the fourth stage, through the sixth stage of the 6 stages of training in Mahamudra. I quite like reading Dharma out loud, and it's a very nice practice to do with a friend, with a Sangha friend. Sometimes I know certain people call each other on the phone, and they'll just read to each other. Some people do that, some partners do that before they go to bed. It's like that's the bedtime story, like the 6 stages of training in Mahamudra. It's just very nice to hear Dharma being spoken, and it's quite different than reading it on your own. And so you can just enjoy listening to this reading, and maybe it'll be a reminder for some of you of some things you've already learned, and for other people this will be a new thing to hear. So this is from stage 4. So stage 1 is identifying your own mind. Stage 2 is realizing your own mind directly. Stage 3 is identifying your subtle mind, which we did or imagined doing last night. And then after that, we head into stage 4, 5, and 6. Stage 4, realizing our subtle mind directly. In general, 3 things happen during deep sleep. Number 1, our inner winds naturally gather and dissolve within the central channel. 2, all our gross minds dissolve. And 3, our subtle and very subtle minds manifest. For ordinary beings, the duration of these 3 is very short because they quickly pass through to dreaming or waking. However, when we accomplish the first 3 stages of the 6-staged training in Mahamudra, we are able to control our distractions. Our mindfulness and alertness are very powerful, and we have great familiarity with meditation on our own subtle mind, while experiencing the cessation of gross minds. Because of this, even during deep sleep, we can maintain mindfulness of our own subtle mind and prevent distractions of both our dream and waking minds from arising. So the duration of our deep sleep will be very long. During a long deep sleep, we can meditate on our own subtle mind. And when our inner winds naturally gather and dissolve within our central channel, we can recognize the signs of dissolution. When, through training in this way, we gain a clear and deep realization of our subtle minds, of the white appearance, red increase, and black near attainment of sleep, we accomplish the fourth stage of training in Mahamudra, realizing our own subtle mind directly. Identifying our very subtle mind, having accomplished the fourth stage of training in Mahamudra, we continue to meditate on our own subtle mind during long, deep sleep. And when our inner winds naturally gather and dissolve within our central channel, we are able to recognize the signs of dissolution from the mirage-like appearance to the clear light. The mind of clear light is our very subtle mind. When our very subtle, clear light mind of sleep manifests, we should realize that its nature is a bliss arisen from the melting of drops inside our central channel. Its function is to perceive an empty-like space, and its location is the very center of our heart channel wheel. Through realizing our very subtle mind in this way, when the clear appearance of our very subtle mind of sleep becomes stable, we accomplish the fifth stage of training in Mahamudra, identifying our own very subtle mind. Realizing our very subtle mind directly. Having accomplished the fifth stage of training in Mahamudra, whenever we sleep, we should practice two things. Number one, prevent dreaming and waking from occurring through the force of our subtle mindfulness and alertness, so that our sleep will be deep and of long duration. And two, whenever our mind of the clear light of sleep, whose nature is bliss, manifests, it meditates on the emptiness of all phenomena. We need to repeat this practice again and again. When, by doing this meditation continually, our mind of clear light of bliss realizes emptiness directly, we accomplish the sixth stage of training in Mahamudra, realizing our own very subtle mind directly. At the same time, our mind of clear light of bliss transforms into the union of great bliss and emptiness, the actual Mahamudra. Subsequently, we shall attain the union of pure illusory body and meaning clear light, from which we can see the city of enlightenment, the enlightened world. From the point of view of accomplishing these attainments using sleep, our sleep has so much meaning. These instructions on the 6 stages of training in Mahamudra are very blessed instructions. Through sincerely putting these instructions into practice, many of Jesongkhapa's disciples, including ordained Sangha, attained full enlightenment very quickly, within 3 years and 3 months. Okay, so that's where we're going. That's where this is all leading. And at whatever level that made sense to you, fantastic. Again, Shoma and I were chatting before the session about some advice to feel that when you're doing the meditation on the clarity of the mind, that it's in this continuum that we just heard, at whatever level it makes sense to you. You just think, this is taking me to enlightenment. And if you have some understanding of the various stages, awesome. You say, all right, I'm going into the clarity of the mind, then I'm going to go into the subtle mind, then a very subtle mind, Mahamudra, city of enlightenment, awesome. Or more nuanced than that, whatever you like. But it's always good to situate a meditation in the context of its direction. I'm remembering, I think it's How to Understand the Mind in the section on yogic direct perceivers. It says, when you do any meditation, just think, this is leading me to gaining what's called a yogic direct perceiver. Like, in other words, I'm going to be a fabulous meditator, even if this is a terrible meditation. It's in the continuum of me being a great meditator. And that kind of mindset, like that can-do mindset, is very useful as a meditator, and it's very tantric. It's like, all right, I'm here now, but I'm going to be here. And this meditation is taking me there. And it's a very nice way to meditate, identifying with that potential, as opposed to meditating just believing, I'm not very good at meditating. This is going to be the same. And so are my next 500 meditations. They're all going to be pretty lousy. And then I'm going to die. And that's another way to do it. And take your pick, but Geshe was recommending the latter, or the former, or whatever direction you want to go. The first thing I said. One last thing from me, and then I'd love to hear from either Genchoma, or we'll kick it out to everybody else. Another thing Genchoma and I were chatting about a little bit is just basically how cool this meditation is, from the point of view of revealing many different things that are important for spiritual practice. So I'll just mention a couple, and this is sort of an endless area of exploration. But if you think about the nature of the mind, which we've been exploring, its nature is clarity. It's a formless continuum. So that insight, that understanding, and over time, that experience, even the experience you gained this weekend, that experience can start to really allow us to believe more deeply that my mind and body are not the same thing. And it can't be overstated how important that is, to have that insight that your mind and body are not the same thing, because it has massive ramifications for your spiritual life. If you become convinced that there's the physical part of you, you looked in the mirror this morning, that you feel that you're inhabiting right now, you can feel the chair beneath you, the cushion beneath you, there's that bit, but then there's an animating consciousness bit that is not physical. And that when the body dies, that other part of you will continue, your mind. That is massive to believe that. In a modern, Western, materialistic, meaning like the only things that exist are the material things, paradigm that most of us have probably grown up in, that's an achievement. To really know in your bones, and like in the bottom of your heart, that this isn't it. And that when the body succumbs, your mind is going to keep churning out appearances forever. And imagine if we deeply, deeply, deeply knew that from this meditation. It would change your life. It would change our life to know that at the level of experience. So this is one great gift the meditation on the clarity of the mind gives us. It bespeaks our future beyond this life. And also, you can go the other way, that we've come from somewhere. So that as you reflect on that, you realize, oh, this isn't it. I came into this life and my consciousness is chock full of imprints. Hence, the appearances that I have and the tendencies that I have. So that's one very important lesson that the clarity of the mind meditation and understanding can give us. I've come from somewhere. I am not my body. I'm going somewhere. And then also, if you look at the function of the mind, it's a creator. And if we really reflect on that role of the mind as imputer, as creator, it can create or impute anything. And then things like realms start to make more sense. You start thinking about how your mind in a nightmare can produce a terrible reality. And you understand, well, yeah, that makes sense, because my mind, it's the creator, it's the imputer, it's what's appearing, my life. So then your confidence or understanding of the power of your mind to produce different realms, like hell realms, spirit realms, animal realms. It's like, yeah, of course, my mind can project and produce anything. It does in my dreams every night, and Buddha's telling me I've done it every life, life after life. And I will continue to do so. And in the most exquisite way, my mind has the power to produce something like this. Your mind is appearing Haruka's mandala. Like we're not very far away from enlightenment. We're already sitting in a representation of it. We're sitting before images of enlightenment. So our mind is definitely getting more and more pure. Look what's appearing to it. Amazing. And if we kind of keep on board with these kinds of appearances and using the mind in the way Buddha's instructing us to do, we'll keep appearing better imputations and worlds until eventually we're abiding in a Pure Land, or in the Pure Land of Buddha. And then there's many kind of psychological, practical things as well, many of which we looked at. I really loved Genchoma's teaching on feelings. And how, if you can't, I like this point, if you can't deal with your feelings, and I agree that this is one of the big problems in modern society. People just have a really hard time dealing with their feelings. It's overwhelming. Feelings are overwhelming. And so, there's a lot of different methods people use to deal with their feelings, some of which aren't particularly useful in the long run, and maybe makes their feelings worse. Whereas with the simple, beautiful clarity of the mind insight, you have this incredible tool to work with your feelings. And many other insights, which that's maybe I'll stop there, and I could either kick it over to Genchoma, and then we can kick it out to everybody else and see what your thoughts are on some of those questions, or anything you want to talk about related to Dharma.
Maybe I'll just personally address Genrinpo's 3 questions as you're addressing those to yourself as well. So thinking about the power of silence. And just a little thing is, well, not a little thing, I guess, but is gratitude for Geshe giving us this gift of this place and how we have these woods. And so we have this opportunity to have solitude and silence, and how it's counterbalanced with the freeway, where we develop compassion. So I've said this before, but this is what I feel like when I'm walking in that direction towards Williams. And so as an ordained person, this arm is covered up and represents compassion, and the bare arm represents wisdom. And so walking in that direction, I'm hearing and looking at the automobiles and the trucks, developing compassion. And on the other side, I'm thinking about contemplation and wisdom, and how Geshe put these 2 things together for us in this most wonderful environment. So gratitude for the opportunity for solitude and silence here. And then in terms of the mind, I think we've probably all marveled at our minds this weekend. What a marvel our minds are. Empty like space with this ability to perceive. What is consciousness? Mind, what a marvel. So grateful to have touched that, to have had some experience this weekend. And in terms of carrying it forward, thinking about I'm actually practically encouraged to think about Hundreds of Deities of the Joyful Land, where it's got those 5 stages of Mahamudra. And the first stage is meditating on our very subtle mind, which is basically the same meditation we've done, except we're meditating on the very subtle mind. And just so kind of astonished and surprised at the magnitude of this meditation in terms of its profundity and also its practical applications. So I'm just kind of marveling. That's about it.
Great. Okay. Does anyone have anything they want to share on any of those 3? Silence, what you learned about your mind, what you want to take moving forward, and you can just shout it out. We're not going to pass a mic around. You can just holler it out, and then I can reiterate if necessary for the people online. Yes, George, and then Lapsam.
The sound of silence. There's a song by that. Actually, I'd like to address all 3 questions, just as get through my head, in my own way. First of all, the sound of silence. And the power of that sound. For example, with a mantra recited within the space of the sound of silence reverberates to the end of that space. And I can feel very much at home there, especially with Om, the home in the heart, and Om, the vibration of the very subtle mind at the heart of our home. So I will reflect on that often in my meditations to reach that point of complete harmony with all space, with all the sound, with all the time. Next, the mind. I reflected on the spelling of that sound that we make within the silence of our existence. I like to think of it this way, 2 ways. Mind, spelled M-I-N-D, and an E, and you get M-I-N-E-D, mind. And that has 2 branching meanings. First, mind as in mind, made mind, mind. And in fact, you probably remember the small child, the small selfish child, will say, mine, it's all mine. No, it's all mine, mine. Here's the point. I have a description of that perspective. Mind is first meaning, M-I-N-E-D, with or without the E. Mind, the sum total of all phenomena that I have made my own. Mind. Talk about personal responsibility. The second meaning we also have, especially here in the Great Southwest, mind, M-I-N-E, as those reservoirs, those treasure troves of valuable raw materials. And so, mind, in this other inflected meaning, I could describe or define as all the objects that I have extracted and refined from the raw material of my own experience since beginningless time. So mind, whenever I hear that sound, in the sound of silence, I am reminded of that creative power, which is my own, and which I can share, recognize as I possess in the company of all living beings. And now the third point. Now what? Where do we go from here? We need a practice. forget, oh, lest we forget, how to remind ourselves of our presence to all living beings, our mothers, how Yeshua has given us much advice on this. One way is with our mutual recognition. If I have a mind, and I am a living being, and I am surrounded by living beings, then the mind is what we have in common. We are each creatively imagining our environment. So I would say we need various methods to remind ourselves of this. I've been using the four complete purities as an important reminder of living in this sacred space, the mandala of Haruka, Haruka's palace. And I have a couple of gems I'd like to share with us. One is a prayer that I was gifted, I'm not going on too long. One prayer I was gifted, which I shared with you some months ago, upon awakening. I try to practice the yoga of rising every morning with the sun. And we have this practice as one of our commitments within Kuruku's mandala. So I have this prayer to share. I've already shared it with Joko and a few other people. I'm offering this as my gift today. It's about time. It doesn't belong to me. So we have this these three or four recognitions that Yeshua tells us each morning on arrival.
George, I just have to say we got to get some other people sharing, so maybe if you could.
I'm willing to be interrupted.
Yep.
I'll just say I have more to say, and to be continued.
Okay. Well, if it was a short prayer, you could share it.
What's that?
You can share the prayer if it's.
May I?
Yeah, please.
All right, it goes like this, and it's poetic. And technically, it's in dactylic tetrahedron, so it's easy to memorize. It goes like this. Now I am Vajrayogini Haruka, and here my phenomena source is made manifest. This is my pure land, my heaven, Kayatra. And you are all heroes and heroines, family.
Thank you, George. That was not pre-planned. So I don't know how that translated online, but I hope you heard that, because there's no way we could repeat what George has said. But thank you very much, George, for sharing. Lapsam.
First of all, I want to say thank you for these teachings, both of you gave, the community of Sangha. And I'd like to say thank you for everybody who came, especially the new people. They probably didn't understand everything, but when they walked away today, they got something. Understanding more the mind that's the whole idea. We have to find out all the mind. I cannot find you. Coming to the silence part, I keep it short. And when I go in silence, I like silence personally. When I had my way, I would be in silence for a long time. But I have family, so that it doesn't work like this. I was 3 months in silence. But what helped me in silence is still to this day, all the time, go deep into my heart, not in my head.
Yeah.
I don't like to work for my head. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
This intellectual stuff is blah, blah, blah. I go into my heart as deep as I can, and I put my Buddha nation, the golden nugget.
Great.
And if you want to find out what the golden nugget is, we have this free ebook, How to Transform Your Life. Beautiful. Explain. And that's where I go. Try to connect. And then go to the bad enough. We have a lot of miserable people in this world, a lot of wars and all this stuff. We can make prayers for them. Move away, join pujas. We like prayers that help us. But why have this issue? When I was in Denver, I asked a couple times to just show them, please fire me. I don't want to do it anymore. But just tough it out and whatever. And I'm back in San Francisco. Felt like home.
Great.
Anyways, thanks
Yeah,
a lot.
thank you, thank you. So I'm not sure if people online are hearing what's being said. Probably not, or yes, not some. Okay, so in light of that, maybe what we'll do, we only have a few more minutes, but maybe if you can just share something simple, and I'll repeat it for the people online, and we'll just take, and it doesn't have to be all three. It could be just one of the three. Silence, what you learned about your mind, and then your practice could be one of those three. Short and sweet. I'll repeat it for the people online. And we'll hopefully, ideally, we get to hear from a bunch of people, and that would be great. And then we'll do a nice long dedication. So anybody else? Rusbe, you have something?
I found that this meditation was much more powerful than reading meditation on the moment. So what I'm going to take going on is I'm going to substitute this with reading my reading meditation for this week. So my formal meditation practice.
That's great. Thanks, Rusbe. So Rusbe was saying that what he found with this meditation is it's much more powerful as a way of stilling the mind, as like a preliminary meditation. And a lot of times we'll use breathing meditation, but you really like this meditation to quiet the mind, and you were like impressed by the power of it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Ellen.
I would love to remember that all my appearances and my feelings are coming from karma and are the nature of my mind.
That's great. So Ellen's saying she would love to remember that all of her appearances and her feelings are coming from her karma and are the nature of her mind. Fantastic. That would be, I would love to, I think that's great. That would be a fabulous takeaway. Tomo.
I connect with my faith, if I have a strong wish and keep dedicating my parents, asking for blessing, I will see one day like I see you.
So yeah, it's taking the faith that you've generated in this weekend and dedicating, and so that one day you can see Buddhas directly, for example. Yeah, what a great wish. If you want to appear something, that's a nice thing to appear, enlightened beings. That's cool. That's great. So, what's your name again? Noelia. Noelia is saying she noticed in the silence that there's just a lot of neutral thoughts happening, and that can just fill your mind up, but she'd rather kind of connect to the mind itself and experience that as opposed to just all the kind of chatter. I think that's a great insight from the silence.
So what I find in silence is I can notice unpleasant feeling around. So normally I can focus on doing, so. But I didn't notice that though doing is controlled by this unpleasant feeling. So now if I pay attention, I realize, all my doing is coming from unpleasant feelings. So silence allows me to observe that, because without silence I just do it.
Yeah, great. That's great.
And then with the mind, because I relate to clarity, so I understand that this unpleasant feeling cannot destroy my mind. This unpleasant feeling cannot destroy my mind.
Yeah.
So I feel like both unpleasant feeling like mosquito bites, where it hurts, but it doesn't harm. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And it gives me more room to love people rather than being unpleasant.
Yeah.
So my practical application is I use my Mahamudra practice to improve patience and love.
Great, love it. Okay, so wonderful. 3 practices. The first one, basically divorcing feeling from doing. A lot of times our feelings impel us to take action, which doesn't always work out well. So if you can create some space between the feeling and the action, that's super helpful. Second thing, the painful feelings like a mosquito bite, and they don't destroy the mind. It's just a feeling in the mind. And if you can get into that recognition that it's just a feeling, you can get some space again, which allows love to come. And from that love and space, there can be a practice of patience and love in the break, which is it's a great takeaway. The clarity of the mind meditation can help you become much more patient and loving. So thank you for that.
So just one thing about silence in meditation, this has been my go-to meditation for a while. And the silence is to taught me patience and perseverance with my own. There's times when I'm having a really hard time getting down, getting into the object clarity. And part of this thing, I just drag it just because I do meditation. Because my alertness or something tells me stick with it, stick with it,
Yeah.
stick with it. And in this setting, there's a lot of silence. I can't just get up and walk.
Yeah.
So it trains me to just stick with it. And sometimes when I do that, boom, I get down.
That's a great insight. So the silence in the session is also very beautiful, and the power of the Sangha, because you're here and you don't want to like get up and walk out. So all right, I got to be here. And then the silence, and I would say also the power of the surroundings and the people and our sense of shame, not wanting to be someone who gets up during a meditation and so forth that is disturbed. So whatever it is that's keeping you on the cushion or chair, you kind of can go through certain barriers and then come out the other end and realize, oh, okay, I was able to get a deeper experience of it through the silence. So silence and patience, that's very nice. Thank you.
To be reminded of the vastness of my own mind, no beginning, no end. Through this practice, being able to drop into that. And then once you do, the little message. And it's so much, it's overwhelming.
Fantastic, thank you. So being reminded of the vastness of our mind and dropping into that, no beginning, no end, and basically this like limitless potential of the mind that we can tap into. That's great.
Just to expand on that, the power, right? I feel like we have this superpower. Now it's going to work on daily control, right? So utilize it, control it.
Yeah, that's great. So, having recognized that, oh my gosh, I have this superpower, and your mind is a superpower. I mean, it's creating everything. And then realizing, oh, it's very important I get this thing under control and harness it, because otherwise its power can go in a lot of different directions. That's great.
I wanted to share my appreciation for the analogy of the ocean. I love visualizations of it, and I feel like, when distractions or negative minds are present, I can really visualize it's a wave, rising and falling, and the depth of the ocean, and the peace, and the power of it. So I just appreciate it, because I feel like even in my daily life, when I'm feeling unsettled, I can tap right into that.
Yeah, the ocean analogy is fantastic, and using it in our daily life, I agree. You can just think this is a wave, let me go back to the stillness of the ocean. Beautiful, love it.
Silence amplifies everything. I've always felt that when I'm sitting alone in my apartment kind of thing, like my thoughts are always like in the echo chamber. So